Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, honoring Arbor Day on April 26th, with an ongoing commitment to sustainable stewardship and conservation of Missouri's forests. ChooseWood.com.
If you have a smart speaker, you have access to the entire world of NPR and St. Louis Public Radio. All the latest news and all the captivating stories. Activate our voices with yours by telling your smart speaker to play St. Louis Public Radio.
From St. Louis Public Radio. This is St. Louis on the Air.
So around their ears, they've got a lot of glands that put out oils, so they're pheromones, right? So their ears, their cheeks, under their chin, and then on their back at the base of the tail transfers onto your skin. And what it tells them, two things. One, the humorous side is, they own you, right?
They own you.
They put the oils on you. You are now their property, right? So you kind of get a sense, from your cat. They'll let you know.
Feels like almost with people, like you need that emotional intelligence to understand your cat's going to give you feedback. It's whether or not you choose to pay attention to that feedback. I'm Sarah Fensky. Angela Staehling's new book may sound like a topic you don't need a book about. It's called How to Pet a Cat. But reading it may change your mind and your relationship with a feline who rules your house. Angela Staehling is an artist who lives in Wildwood, and she joins us today. Angela Staehling, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Angela, who needs a book about how to pet a cat? Isn't that instinctual?
Well, it is. It truly is. And honestly, the whole idea about this book, it really was, based on humor for me because the inspiration came. We were on a family trip and, we were talking about how much we missed our cats. And all of a sudden, I was reflecting on, I love to pet, Rocco, or he really loves it under the chin. And my one daughter's like, oh, no, he loves it on the back, by his tail. And then my other daughter's like, oh, no, on the ears. And so all of a sudden it just dawned on me that, there are all these different ways that, here we thought we all knew his perfect way, what we thought he loved. And, it just was so funny to me that there are all these different petting methods. And I fell in love with the idea, and I thought it honestly was hilarious. Do you really need a guide on how to pet a cat? And I couldn't get it out of my head. And so, I put together this proposal and sent it off to a publisher, and they immediately loved it. And they're like, this totally strikes a chord, we have to do this. So,
and this is Chronicle Books. You've worked with them before. What was your first book about?
It was a houseplant book, so happy houseplants.
How to make your houseplants happy?
Actually, yes.
I kind of see a theme here.
Yes, there's definitely a theme.
Now that one, I have to say, as a person who has killed multiple houseplants, I feel like there's probably many people who need to read this book. But do you think part of why Chronicle Books liked this idea is it's just kind of funny to think about, like, okay, you can do this better than you're doing it. You can serve your Lord and Master, and he or she will be grateful.
Oh, absolutely. And it really is so ironic. As any cat owner would know, there are times you'll pet your cat and they're just annoyed, right? They don't like it, and so there really is a science behind it, and I did not know that when this whole idea came up. I am truly not a cat expert, at hand, but when this whole idea came together, I ended up researching more and more and exactly why do cats not like being petted in certain areas, and why do they prefer other areas?
How do you even begin to do research like this? Are there people who've studied this?
Oh, yeah. Well, it is a scientific thing. So it really truly comes down to where they have, certain glands. So around their ears, they've got a lot of glands that put out oils, so they're pheromones, right? So their ears, their cheeks, under their chin, and then on their back at the base of the tail, they have these, their sweat glands, and so they produce these oils. And what happens is when you pet them in those areas, they love it because it transfers onto your skin. And what it tells them, I mean, two things. One, the humorous side is, they own you, right?
They own you.
They put the oils on you. You are now their property, right? so it's that just goes into the whole, cat superiority.
For sure. I mean, they have that in spades. But you were saying this is one of two reasons they like it. One is that they own you. What's the other reason?
Well, I mean, it just because it creates that safe zone. So if you ever notice, if you have a cat, they rub their cheeks, either up on the couch or on the corner of a wall.
They're kind of working these glands.
Yes, they are very much working those glands. So they want to get those oils onto their environment that lets them know it's a safe zone, right? So they're marking their territory. So obviously when you're petting them in those areas, they love it, right? They're marking their territory. It's a safe zone. So, that is something that, they really love those certain areas where you pet them.
So now you've done this scientific research, and I love it because this book began with sort of a lighthearted family. I don't want to call it an argument, but you had different points of view on this. This probably gave you great ammo to go beyond your daughters, to become the cat's favorite person. Do you feel like what you learned in this book is paying off in terms of your popularity within the home?
Well, I think so, because I'm also now more in tune with, the petting methods that might annoy them, right? I mean, you got to take the whole thing into consideration, right?
Absolutely.
So, like the moments where, I think I've got one here in the book where, you might see your cat, laying with his belly up and he looks so cute and you want to go run and pet his belly. But, I mean, a lot of times a cat will show you his or her belly as a sign of, like, I trust you. So, for example, there's a lot of vital organs, right, that are in that area. And so a lot of cats don't like their bellies petted. I mean, you will find the few that enjoy it, and you're lucky if you have one of those. But, I've learned that, I might have that urge to go run over and pet my cat. He's laying, with his belly up in the air. He looks so cute, and his little paws are dangling over. But, I've kind of learned to give him a little bit of space, or I might just touch him just a little bit, just
feel him out.
And because it's his way of saying, hey, I trust you. I'm letting you see my belly, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because I never, ever thought of that before. But
yeah, part of what was interesting about this book is you give them all these very funny, sort of charming names of how to do these various pets. In fact, I should read some of these names. But for every instruction you have of here's a good pet, there's also a petting method that annoys your cat. There are just as many that annoy them.
Oh, that is so true. That is true. And one of my, if you want to call it a favorite, from the annoying side, I'm not sure that my cat would appreciate that. This is not a hair salon pet. Okay, so that is the name of one of the pets. And so basically what that means is if you pet a cat, and I find it to be, we have both a short hair and a long hair cat. And I notice it to have more of an effect on my short hair cat. And it's basically running your hand, along their back, backwards, from the tail going up to the neck.
Yeah,
so
they do not like that.
No, right? I mean, that's, you would be annoyed too, right? If you're brushing your hair, you know what I mean? It falls a certain way and you brush it the other way. I mean, it's just that a little bit of an annoyance. But, I mean, scientifically, besides that, it also, what happens is it allows the hair to stand up, right? So you're kind of creating these tufts of hair that are standing up, and so heat is able to escape, right? And so a cat really tries to kind of lick their hair back down in place, and so it really kind of helps insulate them, right? So it just, and again, that's them conserving energy. It really feeds into this whole, way a cat just, really protects themselves, right?
Yeah, it's fascinating how what on its face seems pretty funny, like you're really tapped into cat physiology here. And this is not at all your background.
Oh, no.
You're an artist.
Right.
Did you feel a little bit out of your comfort zone going deep into understanding the cat's body?
Oh, for sure. For sure. And again, I only know it at a surface level, right? Yeah. So, it was certainly a research project for me. But
so I want to talk a bit about the illustrations because that is what makes this book so charming, and it's also what made your career. And of course, we are talking about the book, How to Pet a Cat. We are joined today by the local author, Angela Staehling. She lives in Wildwood. This is her second book. The first was about happy houseplants. I imagine cats are a little more complicated to capture in illustrations than happy houseplants were.
Oh, yeah. There was definitely a lot of research, of course, to try to capture all the different, positions of how they're sitting, or and then of course I have my own cats in here as well.
So they were models.
They are models in here as well. Correct.
But you also drew on some Instagram famous cats for this?
I do. Yes, I have. The Instagram is Ben Cat. So. He is a wonderful shelter cat. This family rescued him, and so he's got quite a big following. So he made an appearance. I have Floyd the Lion is another one. He is in the You Had Me at Hello Pet. So he is just the cutest cat. So enjoying the pet under the chin.
And how did that work with these famous Instagram cats? Did you get the permission of their owners to include them?
Yes. So my publisher reached out to them on my behalf, and so they were so thrilled to be a part of it, and yes. So
this is just such a charming book. I understand, even though you did this deep scientific research, you're not going into this thinking that this is a book that people are going to pore over or include in the footnotes of their cat physiology papers. You're thinking of this as sort of a fun, gifty kind of book. Is your publisher able to get placement in the kind of shops where people might want to pick up something just fun for a party?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think this book should be in places anywhere you can purchase a book.
It's going to be in Target.
That is, yes.
That's so exciting.
Yeah,
I mean, that seems like for an author, that's where you want to be.
Yeah, it's a dream come true. So I'm very, very excited about that. Yes.
So I'm curious to hear just a bit more about your background. You obviously didn't set out to become an author. What got you started as an artist?
Well, I've always loved illustrating ever since I was a child, so that was just a natural, progression for me. I've been doing this, honestly, for probably over 25 years. So I've designed a lot of home decor products, so anywhere from dinnerware to stationery to wall art that you would see in Target and Bed Bath & Beyond and all different stores.
When you say you designed it, you designed the whole product, or you're doing the design that goes on the product?
The design that goes on the product,
okay.
Correct. So the artwork that goes on the product.
That's you.
Yes.
That seems like just the coolest job. And frankly, I imagine there's a lot of teenage girls, or even like my 7-year-old, who might listen to this and think, that's what I want to do for a living. How do you get started on that kind of path?
Well, and actually, I'm glad you said that, because I do a lot of career fairs out in Wildwood at the different schools, just because kids, don't know about this.
And it's
right?
a cool job.
It really is. And I never knew about it growing up. So I don't think it's really anything taught in schools, colleges, high schools. So there are different trade shows that you can attend to get started in that. But yeah, it's what we call in the industry, we call it art licensing. So if you ever want to just Google the term, you will find all kinds of information. But there really is a whole network of artists that's what we do. That's our career. So,
and you kind of get your foot in the door by going to trade shows and showing off your work.
Absolutely. That's, I think the best place to go. And just to network, you meet so many people. Even if you're not showing off your artwork, the first time around, you get to see how others are doing it. And I can't speak highly enough about it.
That's so cool. And you're doing this from St. Louis. Does that end up being sort of a strategic spot to be doing this kind of work, or you can do it from anywhere?
You can do it from anywhere, yeah. So, for example, we lived in Europe for a year when the kids, I have 3 children when they were young, and it was something we could do remotely, and that was in 2008, so many years ago. So now even more so to do it remotely.
So I wanted to talk to you about your cats, Theo and Rocco, but I am hearing that people listening to this conversation just have so many questions about wanting to know more about how to pet cats, and I'm going to refer them to this book. They need to get their own copy of How to Pet a Cat, but here is a big question that we're getting. Is there an ideal sensitivity to how you do this? Like, do you want to pet super light, is what I think they're asking, or use a little more muscle?
Well, I think, again, it obviously depends on your cat. And if you have one that is very skittish or nervous, of course, you're going to start lightly. Some of the easiest places that you may want to start are like under the chin or on the cheeks or just, around the ears. I would say if you're just trying to get to start petting a cat.
Cat that is not already your Lord and Master.
Exactly.
You're approaching your future ruler.
Exactly.
You begin lightly.
Yes.
And a particular hand motion that you'd suggest beginning with that cat lord.
I know. I think this really is a humorous topic, right? But I think like under the chin, it's a light scratch. You can just go back and forth, under the chin, and I think each cat, of course, is different, right? So you'll kind of gauge their response. I mean, like our one cat, our fluffy cat, he honestly prefers when you pet him harder. He just, I think the light touches don't do it for him. So you kind of get a sense, from your cat. They'll let you know.
Feels like almost with people, like you need that emotional intelligence to understand your cat's going to give you feedback. It's whether or not you choose to pay attention to that feedback that's going to show whether or not this works for you.
Absolutely.
Well, I hope this book will lead people into a deeper and more meaningful relationship with their cat. Do you feel like it has done that for you and Theo and Rocco, or has one maybe responded better than the other to these techniques?
Oh, I think so. And again, it really goes back to, the ways I think I was annoying my cats, right? I mean, you take it for granted that they're going to enjoy every time you touch them or, enjoy however you pet them. But I've learned to appreciate, maybe they need their space and this is why. Even like in the sun, they prefer to lay in the sun and it helps build up their energy reserves, and so a lot of times I'll want to go pet them. But, I think they'd rather be left alone because they're soaking in that solar energy. So
this is how to pet a cat. It's also how not to pet a cat. Angela Staehling, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
You can find out more about Angela Staehling at angelastaehling.com.
Everybody wants to be a cat because a cat's the only cat who knows where it's at.
Tell me, everybody's picking up on that feline beat. Everything else is obsolete.
This episode was produced by Sarah Fensky and Evie Hemphill, with audio engineering and podcast design by Aaron Dorr. Our executive producer is Alex Hoyer.
St. Louis on the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio. Understanding starts here.
Do you find yourself regularly listening to episodes of St. Louis on the Air? Suggest us to a friend you think might enjoy our conversations. And leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the simplest way to help people discover our show. Thanks.
St. Louis Public Radio is a member-supported service of the University of Missouri, St. Louis.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, honoring Arbor Day on April 26th, with an ongoing commitment to sustainable stewardship and conservation of Missouri's forests. ChooseWood.com.